major key language functions that they really can start to be able to do. Let's take a look at page, let's say 245. So then at this point in chapter 16, we started to add the subjunctive, okay, reacting and representing. Okay? So it's just, I think the crucial thing that's going to help you and your students is the recycling, the constant recycling. And I think you start to then see a result. Okay, so it's not isolated grammar points. The last section is supplement, and that's just in chapters 4, 8, 12, and 16, are OPI kind of dialogues, where the situation is presented in English, and then they have to have a dialogue. And one of the things on the bottom, all of these have expresiones útiles to help them. I mean, how often do you see two students working in pairs, and one student's telling them something, the other's like this? Qué guay, qué chévere, no me digas. I mean, and they love that really. So expresiones útiles, to just always flash them up on the screen, so that they even if they don't, they could look. They just love that, and so, and especially for pair work, I love when I hear. I mean, so I think that's really extremely helpful. Okay. So that's what's in the supplement, and maybe I can't remember now when I said this, when I said this in the first session. You know, we created the supplement so that the graduate students would never have a bad day. I mean, you know, that there's always something. If you were so busy with other things, you could bring that supplement in, and there would be something fun and worthwhile and really moving still towards what your objectives are. So. Anyway, so that's what's in the supplement, and it's a great variety. There's some things you might say, oh, those round robins, I hate that, not doing that. That's fine, because there's so much to do. There might be something that your students end up loving and you do all the time. You start creating your own. But the other thing is the instructor's manual has the directions for how to do round robins, how to do bingos, how to do the communicative goals, and then there's a grading rubric for the communicative goals. So if you do it where they send you a tape, not tape, they don't do that anymore. What do you do?
Voice or a post-it.
Yes, that you could correct it on this really great quick rubric. Why don't we just look at that real quickly? Page 33. So here it says, check off the goals included and indicate if questions were asked. So if they said the time, put a check mark in it. If they had two descriptions, 2 check marks. Family relations, they need to have 10 checks in order to get, I need to reread the way this works, but the number of goals, 10 would be what you would want to do. That would also include the questions, okay? And then, just as you're listening, is the pronunciation a 10, an 8, or a 6? I mean, just global, okay? Vocabulary, do they use a lot of the new words? Yes, definitely not. I mean, and then accuracy, you're just looking for 2 things. Agreement, generally, globally, and verbs, generally. And so it's a nice, quick way, and you're taking notes down here. So if you really wanted to do that and actually give them some feedback on how they're doing as they accumulate these communicative goals, it's a great way to do that. Okay, what I'd like to do now is just share some ideas about teaching certain killer grammar points that are so hard for English speakers. And I'll talk about word order, direct object pronouns, gustar, subjunctive past tense. I'll show you how dictaglosses work, something for hypothesizing, picture file and digital storytelling. But, okay. All right, I'm gonna ever done verb wheels? Yeah, okay, so the concept is you put 3 wheels on, you project them, and I have something that's more level 1 and 2 back there. But the idea is you fill the first one with the subjects, the second, in this case, it's the different verb tenses and moods. And in this case, this is from Punto y Aparte. So it was Spain, and so we talked about Penelope Cruz, we talked about Dali, we talked about Los Tejanos. So those are the subjects. Then these are all the verb forms that they've studied, and then these are the new vocabulary. Hablar por los codos, parecer, ir a la moda, darse cuenta de, meter la pata, llevarse bien o mal. So for the beginning students, this would be more what it would look like. The first rueda would have the subject. The second might have deber, insistir en, necesitar, ir a, tener que, and querer. And then the third would be, this happens to be chapter 5, so it's going to be all the reflexives. So, I'm going to, and this whole thing is called Al Casino. So I'm going to make you go to the casino and do this. Okay. So the idea is, so what we're going to do is we're going to have, I only have 3 sets, but we'll have people be observers of the gamblers. Okay. All right. So for you to see, if you can't see well what's in each wheel, this is what it is. So the idea is you have gambling karma. So each person, you can't have one person throw for all of the ruedas. You'll have to throw, you'll have to throw. So let me show you the example. So would you throw for rueda 1? So, and would you also be the secretary? Okay, so would you write a 6? And then slash. Okay, now will you throw for rueda 2? 5, rueda 3, 6. Okay, so now I want all of you to throw for 2 lines. So their line is, what was it? 6, 5, 6. So I want you each to throw for rueda 1, and then another person throws for rueda 2, and then somebody be the secretary. So you get 3 numbers, and then 3 numbers, and then I'll tell you what happens next.
Go for your 3 numbers.
Rueda 1. 6.
Somebody has to be the secretary.
2, 3.
3 y 5.
Did you do 2?
6.
3,
You
5.
just have 1? So do one more.
So what
One
about
more
the-
set.
You didn't tell us.
Huh?
That's all we got. So we just do like 1 set of
Just
3.
2 sets.
Oh, 2
So
sets,
you've got
okay,
2,
so-
okay.
Okay.
And
Roll again.
4.
4, 5, 6, 2, down.
2.
Okay.
nobody wants rueda 1 to get a 6.
Oh, vosotros. Oh, we got that one.
We got that one.
Okay, so usually I have them roll for 4 sentences, and now at this point, it's a competition. So what you need to do, and you could still be the secretary, the person who jotted that down, you need to write 2 sentences with 8 words each, okay? So if you could, together, using the numbers, so example,
So 6.
yeah, look at the ruedas, what you usually.
Necesitáis.
But you need 8 words.
No, necesitáis
Oh, wait.
5.
acostarte. No, acostar. Acostaros. I get it.
Pero tiene que tener 8 palabras, ¿no? Cada frase, si quieres, vamos a añadir.
Lo más pronto posible.
So, entonces, el primero es 6.
6. Vosotros.
Vosotros.
3.
Necesitáis.
Necesitáis.
5.
Acostaros.
Vosotros necesitáis
Acostaros.
acostarnos.
Acostaros.
Pero si no,
Nada más,
Lo más pronto posible, ¿no?
pero
Por favor.
conjuga los dos. Necesitáis, nosotros necesitamos,
Vosotros necesitáis acostaros a las...
Lo más pronto posible.
Lo más pronto posible.
Sean.
And then she wants to have 3.
So en
I
nosotros
thought you were talking about coming up with the
So in class, this is usually a competition, who gets it first.
Ellos tienen que...
It's gotta be eight words.
ausentarse cada uno.
Pero ¿cuántas frases por grupo? ¿Cuatro? Dos, solamente dos.
But in real class, I usually have them do 4. 3.
Okay. Ellos tienen que, no, siempre tienen que
Siempre tienen
afeitarse. Todos los suelen
As soon as
Todas las mañanas.
Todas las
they
mañanas.
distribute them, and then it's like,
¿Cuántas deben tener?
and the thing is, so 3 people
Terminados.
Ya
contributing
terminados aquí.
to the sentences. So now the winners, the bad thing about the winners is they have to go and put their sentences up on the board.
Okay, you got this.
And what's fantastic about that is 3 people have consulted and they've got their sentences, and this is the teachable moment, because what is revealed, then everybody's looking at these sentences and it deals with, like for example, when it gets a higher level, different tenses, and it's at least 8 words, so that you're obliged to add things. And in the upper level, we ask them to always add a connector, so it's going to be a longer sentence. So anyway, it's like the most wonderful teachable moment, because there you have, in black and white, 3 sentences, and you're going to find things that it's like, bueno, excelente, pero vamos a ver, en la segunda frase, you know, and so, and who sees a little thing that's going on there. And it's just a wonderful time. People pay attention because they've been at the casino, they're in a good mood, and et cetera, et cetera. Okay.
Y si traes chocolates para los ganadores.
Vale la pena. Okay, I'm gonna collect my props.
Cigarette money you want.
The dice is my privilege.
Ya te vas. Te vas a Riverwind.
That opened my freshman year.
After 5 years trying to get over this, it was to be sucked back in by birds. What's that spending class?
Go find your sponsor. Go to your meeting.
One of my favorite things is that if you go to a OU football game, they have like the gamblers thing they do at the beginning of every, like, if gambling is a problem for you, Oklahoma gambling.
Because you know where people are going after.
Oh, yeah.
They know where people are going after the game.
So many people are betting on these games. Boston's like,
No, los últimos 2.
Varias palabras aquí. ¿Pueden ver o no? Son las mías, ¿no?
El tequila. Alguien puso la
I
tequila.
got galletas.
Yo tengo el tequila y los tacos.
I got cerveza y galletas.
El jugo y los frijoles.
Pero
Ensalada es
para ayudarles a llegar a ese punto.
La cerveza y las galletas es una combinación muy buena.
No importa quién eche los dados en el grupo.
Es que cada uno echamos.
Y agregamos en el casino al final de cada uno.
3 dados.
Entonces serían 3 veces. 2 veces, 2
Yo digo que 4.
Pero ¿cómo, ¿de dónde sacan las 8? Si son
8
3, 3, 3.
palabras, 8 palabras, cada
Por eso.
sentence, cada
4 veces, cada vez hacemos eso.
Okay.
Are we doing this?
I have no idea what this is.
buscan los
That one looks like a zero.
números.
Distribute listings of
No, sí se entiende.
The only person in this room is
Matemáticamente no.
Let's take typography very seriously.
Tenemos 3
Los tacos.
Sí, sí, sí.
Antes de la fiesta, ¿quién va? Yo voy a comprar. Yo voy a comprar los tacos y voy a traer el tequila.
Las voy a comprar.
Y para la mañana siguiente voy a llevar el jugo y traer muchos frijoles.
Okay, so you will distribute pairs of things to bring to a party according to the number of students that you have. And you have to make sure your master is the same as what was distributed. And then you say, this is for our party, we're gonna have a party. And you ask the question, ¿quién va a comprar la fruta?
¿Quién tiene la fruta? Yo tengo las
Okay, so then he has to say,
Yo voy a comprarla.
okay, exactly. Yo voy a comprarla. If you want to reinforce, you'd say, ¿quién va a comprarla? And someone would say,
Guillermo.
Guillermo quiere comprarla. So it's just reinforcing it. Then, okay, so, ¿quiere o va? I'm sorry, ¿quién va a? Okay.
Guillermo va a
¿Quién va a comprar los refrescos?
¿Quién tiene el refresco?
Guillermo. Qué generoso es.
Guillermo es muy
Yo
rico.
quiero comprarlo.
Okay. So, let's see. La ensalada.
Oh, yo
Okay.
voy a comprarla.
Estupendo. Y, la cerveza. Bueno, ¿quién va a comprar la cerveza?
También yo tengo la
Ok.
cerveza.
¿Y quién va a comprar las manzanas?
Yo voy a comprarla.
Okay. ¿Y quién va a comprar el guacamole?
Oh, yo lo compro.
Estupendo.
Yo me lo como.
Okay. So now this is easy because they just, they probably,
Es un teachable moment, porque si dice yo lo compro no es el correcto.
right, so they could do either way, but the tendency for an English speaker is going to go the easy route and attach. That's why you have to do part 2, okay? It's the day of the party, and my question is, ¿quién tiene los tacos?
Yo los tengo.
Estupendo, okay? So,
La mayoría.
okay, ¿quién tiene los tomates?
Yo los tengo.
Estupendo. ¿Y la sangría?
Colombiano al fin, ¿eh?
¿Quién tiene la sangría?
Yo la tengo.
Estupendo. So by the time you go through 24 students who have 2 items each, and they keep hearing it and hearing it and hearing it, maybe it's gonna stick, okay? So it's just a good way to sort of, because it's pronoun, these object pronouns are hard. Okay. We talked about gustar. One of the things, we did talk about how gustaba and gusto is so hard, so you could create your own bingos. It could be cuando era niño is the name of it, and it could just be all kinds of activities that you used to like or didn't like. Then I was thinking about Pinterest. Do you use that? Do you know what it is?
Pinterest?
My wife is on 24 hours.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah, I have never used it, but
Oh, if I hear.
suddenly I thought, I mean, I'm so not modern, but I hear things and I go, ooh, this could be good for language. So Pinterest is, say there's a template with 12 slots. And, I mean, from what I've heard, people might put their favorite recipes in there. And then you share it with your friends, and then they have these great recipes that are tried and true. Or it might be great mountain places that I love. And it's not that they're your photos, you bring them in and you drop them in from the internet somewhere, okay? So I thought, wow, this would be a wonderful thing to bring in when you do gustos, because then you could share what you really like, and there would just be 12 frames, so it could be a really fun way for Pinterest to work for teaching gustar. And then where you would report, bueno, a Patricia le gustan, or le gusta, or interesa. You could change it from gustar to interesar. All right, so now, 2 of the really difficult hurdles for the English speaker is dealing with the subjunctive. Living in Austin for all those years, students would come back from spring break and they'd say, they don't use the subjunctive in Mexico. I mean, they don't hear it. They don't hear it. And I said, You know, it's like, whoa, you can only speak for a minute without having the subjunctive come into play. But the concept is really tricky for them. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some ways that maybe we'll speak to 5 students, and another way we'll finally speak to 2 students, or, so let me show you what I'm getting to here. Okay. Let's see, in the supplement, what we do is we introduce it with weirdo as trigger expressions that where you would use the subjunctive, and that's on page 188.
This past semester, I had this one smart student who said, "Why do I need to memorize weirdo?" He was so smart, he did not really see why he had to like separate them or anything. And I didn't have an answer for him because that was the first time someone said that
Well,
to me.
because some people are not as gifted as you are, I would say, and that some people use mnemonic devices to really help them. You know, so this would be, you know, on page 188. Not only does it say wish and willing, but it gives sample verbs.
But it was funny because this is the first time that anybody had ever told me
Well,
that.
I guess he was pretty sharp, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, look on page 70 in the teacher's guide. 70 in the
70.
teacher's guide. So one, I think, effective way to start teaching the subjunctive is on page 70, where it says some tips for teaching the subjunctive. So you would have students work in pairs to do this problem-solving activity. Ask them to try to figure out the differences between A and B. Pepe fuma. Su mamá no quiere que él fume. José sale con Mari. Recomiendo que José no salga con Mari. Inés nunca come carne. Su mamá quiere que Inés coma carne. Volvemos tarde. Mamá prefiere que volvamos temprano. So if they were to look at those two, they would probably say, well, the second sentence has K in it, and the second sentence has the wrong ending on the verb. Okay? Well, good. Exactly. It's so just for them to start out sort of seeing the difference in them coming up with how these are different. So that's when you explain that to use the subjunctive you need what we call a trigger expression. That would be one of these weirdo expressions. You need que, and you need a change of subject. So then here on the next page, now draw 2 stick figures of a mother and son on the board and explain to students that the mother wants her son to do the chores she usually does herself because she's feeling very sick today. So, normalmente mamá hace muchas cosas, pero hoy está muy enferma y su hijo Pepe tiene que ayudarla. Normalmente mamá limpia la casa, pero hoy mamá quiere que Pepe limpie la casa. So they, just to get this idea. Now, I had a student, I think he was from Peru, and he'd say, the subjunctive represents the word of fantasia. It doesn't, something that's not real, it's not really going to happen. So that if you say, mamá quiere que coma más carne, are you going to start eating more meat? You have no control over that. It's not a reality. Then, coming from Texas, and I don't remember where this came from, it didn't come from me, but it's a gun analogy, where you have a gun that has the trigger verbs. If you have a trigger verb, you pull the trigger, the red flag falls out with K on it, and it shoots off the end of the verb, so it needs a new one. So, for some people that, oh, okay, that works, but nowadays we don't even bring up guns. So that's just it's the world of fantasia, it's the trigger and the K, or it's just the concept of subjectivity, okay? And I think that works well. And when students say they don't use subjunctive in Mexico, you know, I usually say things like, you are constantly reacting to your environment. I mean, it could be a blog you just read, it could be news or gossip, or, you know, es increíble, que me fascina, me interesa, que no me gusta para nada, que. So it's just absolutely necessary. Then the whole thing of subjective value judgments. I remember teaching that the expression es normal, no, wait a minute, there's no way that could be one of those trigger expressions. So, es normal que los adolescentes sean rebeldes. Well, not in some countries. I mean, it's subjective, okay? Es importante que comas carne. Well, I just read a lot of studies that that's terrible for you to eat, a lot of meat. Subjective. Es terrible que la profe nos dé tanta tarea. Well, she thinks it's good because then the next day in class you're really going to be able to do your. So the idea of subjective value judgments, sometimes that speaks to them. Okay, so there are different ways to help them with that. Some exercises, like this one. Bolivia estará libre de analfabetismo gracias a un acuerdo de cooperación con Cuba y Venezuela. Es impresionante que es importante que Bolivia, los cubanos recomiendan que, so they could just, so when you do something like this, put some statement and have these three possibilities, and then in the third semester you'd add, si fuera cubano, ... So what happens is you have a statement, and then you can have a conversation about it. You say, well, can you react? You might recommend. You say, well, if I were they. So it really helps a conversation emerge by giving them these little hints. And then here's a round robin, express two reactions, offer two recommendations, and then listen. Shakira está embarazada de 3 meses y ya está organizando su boda con Antonio de la Rua. This is old news. She's no longer, I don't know who she's with now, but anyway, so they would react and then they would recommend where she should have the wedding, blah, blah, blah. All right. So now for the past tense. One of the I had a graduate student who did her dissertation on aspect, and it really brought home to me the whole idea that the preterite is dynamic. It moves the action forward. It's dynamic. The imperfect is static. It never introduces a new time frame. It only attaches to a preterite event that's been announced. So it's dynamic. It moves the storyline forward, and it is the backbone of your story. The imperfect stops the action to flesh out, okay? So let me show you. So in this case, this is a past tense narration in the preterite. Fuimos a un pueblo pequeño cerca de Oaxaca, vimos unas artesanías lindísimas, hablamos con los artesanos, decidimos comprar 3 máscaras, comimos chapulines, salimos para la playa, nadamos, descansamos y bailamos, nos marchamos. Fue un viaje fabuloso. So every X part of this back, it moves the story of his trip to Oaxaca forward in time. That's the dynamic nature of the preterite. Now, the imperfect stops the action and fleshes out the story, adding description and emotion. Now, there are more complexities to the preterite and imperfect, but when you're first teaching it, if you could really associate that whole thing of moving forward in time, stopping and fleshing out, it gives a visual that is helpful. Fuimos a un pueblo pequeño cerca de Oaxaca. Estábamos muy emocionados al llegar. Vimos unas artesanías, eran lindísimas y queríamos comprar todo que había. Pero decidimos comprar 5 máscaras y 4 cerámicas que tenían colores muy vivos. So it was funny because at a certain point my graduate student said, backbone flesh, that is so gross. I mean, can't you think of something different? I don't, backbone and flesh. So I thought of this, Mario el Minimalista. And so Mario el Minimalista just speaks in the preterite. He's the facts, nothing but the facts, moves the story forward. So in this case, la semana pasada fuimos a Guanajuato, donde se quedó con una amiga, me quedé en la posada de Santa Fe, visitamos la casa, nació, etc. Now he travels with Dolores, la dice la todo. They did the same trip together, but she cannot contain herself. Okay? Yeah.
And that's what I had this last semester. One girl, it was like, Pretty's kind of like the boys, how they talk, boom, 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 and perfect is like we're just all adding all of these things. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great
So
one.
so this is really quite helpful, okay? So if you don't like the backbone and the flesh, and it's funny, in Middlebury College, at the end of the summer, the students do skits for the whole school, and they imitate the professors, and they did the funniest imitation of me talking about the backbone, and it looked like I was swimming, the backbone in the flesh, the backbone in the flesh. But, so anyway, this, like I said, for some people, this whole thing of Mario el Minimalista and Dolores la Díselo Todo really helps. But then, as they're forming their own stories, you could ask them to think of the story in terms of a time frame and write, 4 sentences of moving the story from the time they got up until the time they went to bed on Saturday. What happened? Then go back and flesh it out. We did the whole Montessori thing of physical actions that stay with you. This was years ago when the Seinfeld reruns were on at 6:30. And we asked them to watch that, and then the next day they'd come in and tell what happened to the episode. So we would have one person come up and do the first sentence. George llegó al café a las 6, and the person stands like this. If someone decides that they want to add to that, they hook arms and say, llevaba una peluca ridícula, and maybe someone adds something else. Then someone else from the class would stand up and say something else that happened next in the preterite. Maybe no one had anything to add. Someone else would say what happened next, and maybe there was a lot to say. So in other words, they started to see the movement and the fleshing out going this way. Nothing was happening, but description was happening, so it stayed this way. It's so much like, oh, Sharon, that's ridiculous, I would never do that. But so it might work for some people, but it's something physical that maybe, sets in. Have you done dictaglosses? Have you? Okay, a dictagloss is very helpful for past tense narration practice. It's an interactive dictation, and it's collaborative, and a lot of metalinguistic bantering goes on. And what you do is you can write, or maybe something exists, a short text for a Spanish 2 or Spanish 1 or 2. I would not do more than 100 or 125 words. You choose a subject that they've already talked about or seen in the book, okay? I'll show you. So, for example, in Spanish 2, in Los Lugares Fascinantes, en Punto y Aparte, they learn about la Feria de Abril in the Lugares Fascinantes section. They have the video blog that they see. It's familiar, okay? So that's the first thing. So, you take something they know, in this case it was from the Lugares Fascinantes. You put keywords, but only words that are so unique to what you're saying, words that they might figure out from the context you don't have. So in this case, probar, vestimenta, vestimenta, y la caseta. You read the text at a normal speed, and they are not allowed to have a pen or pencil in their hand. It's only to get the gist. Then you read it again, okay? Slowly but naturally. You don't go, okay. Then they can take notes, but the idea is it's not a dictation. There's no way that you want them to just write down keywords. Then you put them together in groups of 3, and they reconstruct the story. Not word for word, because that's not the point. It's the gist of the story. So what's happening is they say, oh no, that must be the preterite, because, and so after they finish, that means 3 people have put the story together, and then you put the original on the board, and so this was the original, and then they look at where they messed up, and then since it's a group of 3, you go in, they'd say, is this wrong, is this possible? And so once again, a teachable moment, but it works very, very well if you choose things that are past tense narration. Okay? Any questions?
Yeah, are these on the online teachers
Every single chapter in Punto y Aparte has a dictogloss for every single chapter, and it is, yeah, it's there, yeah. Now, for teaching, you know, when I put in the siete metas comunicativas hypothesis, it's the bare bones of hypothesis because it's a formula, you know, so, but this is a great way to help them get in their mind which verb goes with the C clause. So the idea is, you would write just one line. You write, si pudiera estudiar en el extranjero, estudiaría en el Perú. And then I draw an arrow from estudiaría to estudiara. And then an arrow from aprendería to aprendiera. And so I get like this, it's called a cadena because it ends up looking like it's attached. So, you show them this, it's, si estudiara en el Perú, aprendería español rápidamente. Si aprendiera rápidamente, haría amigos peruanos. Si hiciera amigos peruanos, comprendería mejor la cultura andina. Si comprendiera mejor la cultura. It usually comes to a natural end, but it is such a good way to get that down. So here are some beginning sentences. Si sufriera de mucho estrés, who knows how far that would go. Si yo heredara un montón de dinero, si mi novio rompiera conmigo a través del internet. So you bring it, the cadena, and so they could really get a good feel for the way that works. Digital story, have you worked on digital storytelling? Anybody, have you done?
We've done video projects. I know several of us have done video projects in the past. Yeah, I don't know if we've done specifically digital storytelling.
You know what could be interesting as at the end of the third semester, and I just don't know, you know, in a smaller school it maybe works better, but to have the capstone project be a digital story in which you use the siete metas comunicativas. And what a digital story, okay, it's short, 2 to 3 minutes, and it could be photographs, it could be little video snippets, or it could be an interview, and then there's voiceover. And I guess it's called iMovie that allows you to, it is so simple. I mean, I am terribly inept at this kind of thing, and so digital stories can be used as an expressive medium within the classroom to integrate content with language skills, and I'm going to show you a sample. Students can work individually or collaboratively to produce their own digital stories. Once completed, these stories can easily be uploaded to the internet. For study abroad, we're encouraging students to do digital stories. I'm going to show you, so when we have them do the digital stories, we give them a mini assignment grammatically. So in this case, this person is going to do a digital story about his cousins. And the assignment is, I'm going to be grading on description and comparison, okay? Whereas this other one, Mi Viaje a Salamanca, I'm going to be listening for, of course, agreement, okay? But narration in the past and expressing likes and dislikes. So let me see here if I can show you.
While you're pulling that up, Sharon, your students all have access to iMovie on the 10 iMacs that we have in the lab, which are brand new as of this summer. So they can come in and edit any of their content that they like. And if they'd like to record video, they have access to the digital flip cams that we have as well. I know Amos did a video project with his class this summer. Very successful. The students loved it, and he got some really high quality results. And then they can upload.
El verano pasado fui a Salamanca durante un mes. Estuve con un grupo de estudiantes americanos. Los chicos eran muy divertidos y simpáticos. Hago muchas cosas muy interesantes en España y yo miré muchas ciudades en la país. Por ejemplo, yo hice surfing y el zipline y luego con los toros pequeños porque los grandes eran más locos y peligrosos. Me encantan muchas cosas en España, como los detalles en los edificios por todas las ciudades. Y también la comida está muy rico. La experiencia en España cambió mi vida.
So what's interesting is, agreement. He actually was he's the marketing director of our study abroad program, and he was taking a group of high school students. I said, oh, Mark, could you please do this for me? So he hasn't taken Spanish for a long time. But anyway, what's so natural is these awful agreement errors. So that's why, if this year, this could be your goal, to start from the beginning and help students get over that. So anyway, this is, I hope, lots of ideas, that some will work, some won't, but just different ways to make language learning fun and effective. And I hope that you guys enjoy working with Puntos de Partida and that you have a great semester. Thank you. I think we're going to meet when we started, and there might be just some general.
Probably 15 minutes. We have 15 minutes. And what John says, the media, the students love these kind of projects because they are in the YouTube culture, the Pinterest, if you just tell them what they need to do, they already know the technology. If you're going to do it, more likely one of them already knows how to do that. They know how to do that.
Right. The only other thing that I would say about that, if you get who's done video projects with their class before? 1, 2. Okay, so you guys have done it before. What are some of the pitfalls that you've run into in the past?
Group work.
Group work. I would say a couple of things. First, give them some guidance regarding format. Okay? For my classes, I've given them 2 choices. You either burn me a DVD and bring it to class the day of that it's due, complete, ready to go, that you've tested, not just on your computer, but in a DVD player, make sure it works. Okay? Or upload it to YouTube and send me the link before class. Right? It has to be in, like, if you've got a 9:30 class, it's got to be to my email by, at the very latest, 9 a.m. that morning. So, because if you don't, you'll have people bring all sorts of weird stuff. They'll bring it on a flash drive, they'll bring it on their laptop, want to hook it up. I had a class long ago that just brought the camcorder that had the movie on it, but no cable to connect it to the TV. So we were trying to watch it on like this size screen. Not good. So give them guidance, and then give them some guidance as to how many minutes. The fact 2-3 minutes, perfect. You don't want anything longer than that, because what the students don't realize is if they shoot video or collect videos or do voiceover, if they shoot 2 to 3 minutes of video, they're probably going to spend 2 to 3 hours editing and uploading to YouTube before it's done, especially if they haven't done any of that before. So the idea of using it as a capstone project, awesome.
Yeah.
And you know how creative they are. It's amazing the stuff that they come up with.
You know, just as and a little bit of devil's advocate here, they do a project similar to this at Norman High, and it's mixed results, obviously. And so often what happens, like they might spend 2 or 3 hours editing that video. In that case, and you know, our students, so many of them are freshmen here. They're almost like high school students. It ends up so often that one student spends 2 or 3 hours editing that video. And you know, those kinds of group projects can be really unfair to one.
Well, you know,
student.
one thing that was really neat about what Sharon just showed us was that digital story was one person.
Right.
So you could easily do it as one person.
Yeah.
We've done it as like an alternative ending to the Soliviento series.
Yeah.
So they shoot the real final episode, or an epilogue or something like that, which is fun. And what I like to do to kind of give them some structure is show them, if it's the first time you're doing it, you might have to ask friends for one to show, but I show them the best 1 or 2 from previous classes to kind of set the bar. And then they try to go above and beyond.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Only you could save your party items, buy them later.
Bring them tomorrow. Tomorrow.
Some galletas
Yeah.
here.
You like tacos?
That's one, another, because, you know,